Coming up, flying in the Alps, lessons we can learn from the French about general aviation. Life after the tornado at a GA airport. Building interest by building airplanes. And Cirrus is going to build a light sport aircraft. AOPA Live this week begins right now. Hello and welcome to AOPA Live this week for August 9th. I'm Warren Morningstar. Tom Haynes is off this week. Well, Cirrus Aircraft will become a key supplier for the Icon A5 amphibious light sport aircraft. That announcement from the two companies this week. Cirrus will build composite structures for the A5 in its North Dakota factory alongside the SR-20 and 22 component production lines. Icon will assemble the A5 in Tehachapi, California. Now, Icon says the first production aircraft will be completed in the summer of next year. However, Icon has applied to the FAA for an exemption to the LSA weight restrictions. The company says it needs an additional 250 pounds to incorporate the extra structural elements to make the aircraft spin resistant. The FAA has not yet ruled on the request. FAA inspectors will have to be more careful in the way they treat pilots from now on. That's because President Obama signed the Pilot's Bill of Rights into law this week, and that means any action the FAA takes against a pilot can now be appealed to federal court.
When you have access to appeal it to the federal district court or to the Circuit Court of Appeals, that changes one thing significant. What is that? That's the attitude of the guy in the field. The FAA person who might be inclined to go and harass you, not very many of them, but they're out there, then if they know that their work is going to be checked by the federal district court, then they're going to be fair.
Well, that was Senator Jim Inhofe speaking at Oshkosh. He's the original author and bill sponsor. In addition to opening the enforcement process to appeals, the bill says that the FAA must give you access to all of the information it has against you, including ATC tapes, and it sets up advisory committees to improve the NOTAM process and pilot medical certification. Well, the aviation industry is asking the FAA and Department of Transportation to support a bigger budget for unleaded avgas research. AOPA, along with other aviation associations, sent joint letters this week urging that Congress be asked to dedicate $5.5 million for FAA research and development of a comprehensive unleaded avgas program next fiscal year. Well, government officials aren't the only ones who can squirrel away to an undisclosed location. Your AOPA Tougher Than a Tornado Sweepstakes Husky flew back home to its birthplace in Afton, Wyoming right after Oshkosh. Well, here's Dave Hirschman's view as he flew along the Snake River outside of Afton. If you look real close, far ahead of him is AOPA President Craig Fuller and his Husky. Well, after a factory annual, Dave flew the Husky to an undisclosed location in Southern California, and it will remain there, lovingly hangared and hidden, until it unites with its very surprised new owner at the AOPA Aviation Summit in Palm Springs. It's not too early to start making your plans for the October 11th through 13th show, nor is it too late to get your name into the sweepstakes pool for the Husky. You can find out about both on aopa.org. Well, while Dave had the chance to fly the Husky around the craggy peaks of the Tetons, AOPA pilot editor-at-large Tom Horn got to fly around the Alps. And that was to find out why, even with the greater restrictions and much higher prices than in the U.S., France enjoys a vibrant general aviation culture.
This air club movement is still very, very strong. France is a nation for aviation. Many people, I think, are very proud of that.
Why is France such a general aviation-minded nation? Well, part of the reason has to do with its long history in aviation, period. The other part of it is that it has a nationwide network of over 600 aero clubs based at 450 different airports. Today, we're at the Aero Club de Dauphiné. You couldn't pick a better setting for an airport here at the base of the French Alps. The Aero Club du Dauphiné is one of the biggest and most successful clubs in all of France.
Oh, right today we have 28 aircraft.
You got the Rally, the Mousquetaire,
Rally, yeah.
DR400.
This is our aerobatic plane.
Ah, I see.
Cap 10.
I have instructors dedicated to aerobatics as well.
To aerobatics today too.
Two. And how many students of aerobatics among the 600 members?
Or maybe 15.
15?
15, yeah. Then we have, for mountain flying, we have mousquetaires, five of them.
Okay.
Then we have one Cessna, 172. We have two smaller Jodels, and we have one Cirrus.
And all of those aircraft fly about 10,000 hours a year. The Cirrus goes for about $235 an hour wet. And the 10 Robin DR400s, the most popular in the fleet?
Depending, well, it starts from roughly 130 euros up to 180, depending on the power of the engine.
It takes a good-sized staff to keep all of that running, including mechanics to maintain airplanes that in some cases are 40 years old.
In this air club, there are 30 people working. I mean, having really been really involved. And only, plus we have these 13 employees which are paid people, professional people, which means that most of the people actually running the club are doing it for free.
That includes Christian, now on his third term as president.
If you want to raise my salary, it's very easy. Okay, you just double or triple very, very easily.
It's the volunteers that make this club so successful.
The very high cost that we have in France, cost of fuel, cost of airplanes, this system runs only with voluntary people.
But volunteers do more than just keep the costs down. They are the core of an aviation community. A community and government that works hard to recruit pilots and provide a social environment at the airport. And social is the key. There are airport open house days, introductory flights.
And also it's a classical gift in France to offer the first flight to somebody. So we have many people coming to our desk, you know, and a grandmother stating, well, I want to offer their first flight.
And regular formation flight demonstrations by the resident team, wings in purple sky. There's always a crowd at the fence. Everyone's welcome, and that just may be the key. In Grenoble, France, Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
Well, I must tell you that walking into the Aero Club there at Grenoble felt somewhat more like walking into a friendly neighborhood bar than the typical FBO here in the United States. And yes, there is a little bit of drinking, but always after flying. You know, almost all of the GA pilots in France are members of an Aero Club, and they are members of the national organization, the Fédération Française Aéronautique, which is sort of like AOPA here in the US, but since this is France, it has a much tighter association with the French equivalent of the FAA, and they work together to promote general aviation. Now here's more from Tom and Christian.
Christian, could you tell me a little bit about the history of the Aero Club movement in France?
Well, I think it started very early in the 20th centuries with very rich people, you know, playing with the first airplanes. Then in around the 1930, more and more people wanted to fly, but without, of course, the wealth that you needed at that time to fly. So what's called the popular aviation movement started with the help from the government and with the threats of war. Many people were feeling the need to train more pilots. So all this combined, this movement to have many air clubs in France, heavily helped by the government by providing airplanes and fuel and training. Of course, all that stopped during the World War II. But thereafter, it was started again with lots of people trained, and even people not very rich were able to fly in France, which made that this movement was really something very attractive for the younger people.
Well, through the Aero Clubs, the Fédération promotes learning to fly, supports flying clubs, and helps fund flying scholarships for high school students and flight instructors. You can learn more about French flying in Tom's upcoming Pilot Magazine article, French Lessons. The digital edition will be available next week on your iPad. The print edition will be in your mailbox later this month. And next week on AOPA Live, Tom and I will do some serious mountain flying. Now, I learned to fly in the Rocky Mountains, but I've never done anything like what these French Aero Club pilots do in the Alps. When AOPA Live this week continues, the sad death of one GA airport, but another weathers the storm. Life after the tornado in Atlanta.
Flight following didn't call out an opposing plane. I saw it on the screen. He turned right and the other plane just pretty much flew right on by. It's your life. You only get one shot at this.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. I'm Warren Morningstar sitting in for Tom Haynes. Well, one of the alphabets has a new prez. NATA, that's the National Air Transportation Association, has selected Thomas L. Hendricks as its new president. He starts September 1st. NATA represents aviation businesses like flight schools and FBOs. But sadly, 8 FBOs and flight schools in Ohio will be looking for a new airport. That's because the Cincinnati Blue Ash Airport is closing. AOPA worked for years to help keep the airport open. AOPA Vice President of Airport Advocacy Bill Dunn says it's disappointing.
The City of Cincinnati made a commitment to keep the airport open, to reconfigure it. It's been going on for 5 years, and at the end of the day, politicians involved just did not keep their word to the aviation community.
And what's that going to mean to the aviation community that relies on that airport?
Well, businesses that are there are going to have to either relocate or go out of business. I mean, there is some capacity at some other airports in the area, but it's a major effort to shut down an airport and move and establish a business.
The airport will close on August 29th. You can read more about AOPA's effort to save Blue Ash and why that turned out to be impossible on aopa.org. Well, layoffs continue at Hawker Beechcraft even as negotiations continue with the China businessman on the sale of the company. ArkansasBusiness.com reports that 170 workers at Hawker Beach's Little Rock plant have been told they could be laid off in 60 days. Some 450 people work in that Arkansas plant doing completion work on Hawker jets. Well, in Dallas, Georgia, not far from Atlanta, one of the nation's newest airports is recovering from a near-fatal knockout. Pete Combs reports on the Paulding Northwest Atlanta Airport's comeback after it was devastated by a tornado earlier this year.
As you can see, it's a stormy day here at the Paulding Northwest Atlanta Regional Airport, but it's nowhere near as stormy as it was the night of March 2nd. That's when a powerful tornado ripped across this airport, almost destroying it. That happened just 2 years after this place was built.
It was a huge mess. I mean, it's something that we've been working on for many years, so to see it torn to pieces in one night, very disheartening.
The EF3 tornado roared across the airport under cover of darkness, but the next morning it was very apparent that this facility, which opened in 2010, had been nearly destroyed. The terminal building was seriously damaged. The T hangars were wrecked. A larger hangar housing a Cessna Citation was also destroyed, as was the aircraft inside.
We had 19 aircraft that were totaled, several others that had some damage that was repairable. So for the most part, we had one airplane that came away unscathed.
Airport manager Blake Swafford estimates damage to this airport at almost $600,000. Damage to the aircraft parked here when the storm hit is estimated at $5 million. Joe Sarber is operations manager at Paulding Jet Center, the field's only FBO.
It was a gigantic setback for us. It really hurt us, but what doesn't kill you will only make you stronger.
The tornado's path was by no means limited to the airport itself. The destruction is evident even now, more than 4 months after the twister. Pilot Kerry Tidmore is a member of the airport's board of directors.
Whole area. See those trees that are still bent and laying on the ground right here? We're coming right over them. Oh, yeah. Stripped of any leaves whatsoever. You can see all the new construction going on with this house down to your right. All that's tornado related.
But now, after an intensive rebuilding effort, Paulding County is back in business.
Behind you, we've got 3 or 4 based aircraft here today, so that's 3 or 4 more than we had a couple of months ago. And as soon as we can get these T-hangars put back together, then we'll see a number of aircraft coming back into the airfield.
We've got a lot of airplanes that are ready to come in here. One are cheap fuel prices, cheap hangar space, and we don't have the hangar space right now to give to them. So as soon as that's available, we'll take right back off.
Part of that takeoff effort includes the airport's first ever air show, Salute America 2012, in October. It was planned before the tornado as a way to promote Paulding County Regional Airport to the community that surrounds it. But Swatford says now the event has taken on a much larger purpose.
It did give us a new purpose. We were able to use the air show, hopefully use some of the proceeds from the air show to benefit some families in Paulding County that sustained serious damage to their homes, and bring a focus to the rebuilding effort and the recuperation from the tornado.
Swatford hopes that the T-hangars, along with a corporate aviation hangar, will be finished by the end of the year. He also hopes the air show will prove to the people who live around this airport this place is more than a neighbor, it's a friend, when friends are needed most. For AOPA Live, I'm Pete Combs.
Well, it's certainly great to see that one GA airport is succeeding. When we come back, NASA is back in the groove and building excitement by building an airplane. AOPA Live This Week continues in just a moment.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
Well, welcome back to AOPA Live This Week. Well, NASA has found its mojo. As you know by now, the roving laboratory Curiosity landed on Mars, beating the odds in a marvel of precision flight. Curiosity survived the 7 minutes of terror descent through the thin Martian atmosphere, slowing from 13,000 miles per hour to nearly zero, landing under rocket power. That landing, the most complex and challenging to date, required a supersonic parachute to slow the rover to 200 miles per hour, followed by a rocket-powered sky crane that dangled the rover from a tether. Now, Curiosity is rigged to search for signs of previous life on Mars. The rover quickly began beaming back images from the surface, and now begins a 2-year odyssey to explore areas where water may have once been. And oh, by the way, that's about $2.5 billion of your tax money sitting on the red soil, but I, for one, think it's money well spent. Well, as the Mars rover Curiosity lined up for its final approach, NASA also had its eye on the future of manned flights to the International Space Station, a job once handled by the sadly now retired Space Shuttle. On August 3rd, the space agency announced a set of contracts worth up to $1.1 billion in all, divided between Boeing, SpaceX, and Sierra Nevada Corporation. Each company will now spend the next 2 years refining concepts and designs for a rocket-powered craft capable of carrying humans to low Earth orbit and, more importantly, back. If all goes well, one or more of these designs could be operational by 2017. But AOPA is looking to make an impact on pilot numbers much sooner than that. We told you last week about AOPA Aviators, our new free youth membership. This week, it's off and running. Things are really lighting up on social media. Take a look at the Aviators Facebook page. You can see there's a lot of interaction with the young future pilots. AOPA Program Director Lauren Otto says Aviators is gaining momentum.
We couldn't be more excited about the momentum that this program has gained since its launch just a week ago. We have nearly 200 Aviator teens signed up to date, which I think is phenomenal.
But we don't want it to stop there. Aviators is open to any teen aged 13 to 18. If you know a future pilot who wants to sign up, send them to aopa.org/AV8RS. Best of all, it's free. While across the country, programs large and small strive to give children a first taste of aviation and build the next generation. Some, like Build a Plane, seek a broad reach, working with hundreds of schools. Others are working on a smaller scale, including a new program that Jim Moore learned about in the Home Builders Hangar at Oshkosh. A group of youngsters from a small Wisconsin town spent the week of AirVenture building their own flying dream.
Saturday afternoon at Oshkosh, and the air show is going on outside of this hangar. Most of the young crew working on this project airplane are out there, taking in the sights and the sounds. Here in the Home Builders Hangar, a star pupil in a homegrown aviation education program. Suzanne Stalker, age 15, is working on an airplane that she aims to fly.
I want to become an aerospace engineer. I've been taking engineering classes since 7th grade, and it's always been fun and I've liked it. And plane's interesting to me, so I'll just put them together.
Jerry Graff started working about 2 years ago to put kids and airplanes together at his Iola, Wisconsin airport.
I've already had CFIs volunteer their efforts to be able to instruct the kids once the airplane's done. And then, think about it, now I have a club airplane for these kids to be able to fly at our grassroots airport. So the idea is for the kids to learn and to continue, and then once we get done, then we'll take the airplane back to 68 Charlie and continue the education and complete the aircraft. Now think about this. As I tell the kids, as they put rivets in this airplane, they're building an airplane they're going to fly, so they better do it right.
Working alongside volunteer mentors, they've assembled much of the fuselage in just a few days. Zenith donated the CH-750 kit. Graff has financed much of the effort himself.
I wanted to give back to the kids, and I look at, you know, the kids are our replacements, and you see all the things that we enjoyed about aviation. It's up to us to kind of pass some of that heritage along back to these young kids.
Suzanne Stalker and about half a dozen other participants also got their hands on the X-Plane flight simulator.
There is a part of that program that allows you to go ahead and design an airplane or enhance what's in there. We have the Zenith 750, CH-750 in there, and the kids can get to a point to go, well, after we build the airplane, what happens if we want to extend the wingtips 3 foot? And they can do that, and they can put all the data in there, and then they can see what kind of impact that's going to have on the flight of the airplane. Some of the things I'm also trying to teach these kids is respect, responsibility, accountability, learning their social skills, their communication skills, their engineering skills. These are all important. It's more than just an airplane. Once the plane is done, not only the kid's going to fly it, but it's going to have aviators by design on the side of the airplane. And I want to take it to fly-ins and air shows and high schools and promote the program. Like I say, if we can do what we're doing in Iola, Wisconsin, it can be done anywhere in the United States. We've got a bunch of World War II guys. Average our president's 80 years old. We've got a bunch of guys. And everybody says, yeah, you got a great thing here. It's beautiful. But in 10 years, this place is going to be dead. And I agree to a point unless somebody does something about it. I want to be one of those guys that's going to do something about it. I don't want the airport to die. It's too important.
In Oshkosh, this is Jim Moore, AOPA Live.
You go, girl. Great program. We need a lot more programs like that to help push aviation along. Well, you can learn more about Aviators by Design online at aviators-by-design.com. Now, Graff is eager to collect donations, be it cash or perhaps a UL power plant you might just have lying around. And finally, let's go back to Grenoble, France, and fly along with the Whips team as they practice a formation routine near the French Alps. I'm Warren Morningstar for Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next Thursday on AOPA Live This Week.
Des plans fixes de l'avion devant. Enfin, on est bien en face. Au milieu de la barre verticale de la verrière. Ok. Pas de questions?